Welcome back to your weekly dose of unicorn farts. I am Wakafa. I am a quantum energy healer. I have the ability to see both the positive and the negative in the light and the darkness. I do this through past life regression, also known as angelic or universal Reiki alchemy or aura hypnosis healing for short. And I also do Reiki angelic alchemy healing, aura for short. To find out more about those, please visit my website on www.lightwithin.online. So on this episode, I'm going to cover what the light and the darkness is and go over any misconstrued ideas that we may have about it. First of all, I'd like to share a channeling that came through from Kali Ma, as most of you probably know who she is, and if you don't, let me share what came through. Everything of darkness is you, so be. You are the weave, the fabric of everything. Light was born from darkness. The light is knowing of darkness. Each cannot exist without the other. Darkness existed first, but did not know she existed. Only when awareness was reached, she was. So do not underestimate the infinite love you are. So darkness came first, and it is a she, and she is infinite love. So in energy terms, the darkness is the feminine. And generally, in the energy body, it sits on the left of us. So the light would be masculine and she would sit on the right of us in the energy body. We've interpreted masculine to mean men and the feminine to mean female. This is such a binary way of thinking, and it's the only way the false matrix processes either or. It can't seem to do and. Let's take the energies of Kali Ma. I'm a fractal of her, a fractal of the Divine Mother. So Kali Ma is fierce. She's a protector. She's courageous. She has strength. She is darkness herself. So anything false or not of source cannot hide from her. She will sense and destroy it straight away. She is also the protector of her opposite, the light. So it's only recently I've started to feel my light. She's nurturing. She's the epitome of kindness and love and nurture. That's how she feels for me. So it dawned on me that it was my feminine side that was leading me all my life, and not the masculine, because I've always been told I'm too masculine, which means that it's been the darkness that's been leading me all my life. So for me, what I've realized is the feminine is very strong, it's very protective. It is from that energy that I draw the courage to do the right thing. So for a very, very long time, my culture and the culture I've been brought up has told me that I'm not feminine enough, that I'm not nurturing enough, that I'm not gentle enough, that I'm too strong, that I'm too mouthy, that I'm too direct, too forceful, too forthright. I've been told, I'm masculine. So for very, very long time, I've thought that I wasn't feminine. I'm not in my feminine. I'm not what society deems to be a feminine, a female. So in a way, society has stopped me accepting all my true feminine qualities because society or the culture or the matrix has labeled a female to mean something else that serves the matrix as opposed to serving me. And it's not of my truth. So has the false matrix indeed flipped what it means to be female and feminine? Why would it do this? Why would it want to keep us not stepping into our power and who we truly are? Is it to keep us weak? Is it to keep us controlled? When we realize, as I'm stepping more and more into my feminine, I'm realizing the truth of what the feminine is and how strong and powerful she really is. So has the matrix been trying to keep us weak, like I've said? Is it trying to make sure we don't step into our power? And in that way, we end up not trusting ourselves and what we see and sense. So obviously, this is my experience and this is my truth. Everyone's going to be different. Everybody's going to have a different amount of darkness and light in them in varying degrees, and it may mean something different to you all. I understand that I'm quite strongly on one side of the spectrum, and I'm still trying to bring in the other side. So there's not much of an integration happening. And I believe it's a process because I've had to be in my darkness for so long because of the falseness around us. And since I have this inbuilt sense to know that things aren't quite right, it seems like that's who has stepped forward, which is my darkness. And there's also maybe an element of the matrix, the false matrix there, splitting the polarity between light and darkness, doing the either or, and not having the and, so not having the full spectrum or having the fluidness in who we are. So I communicate quite regularly with my higher self, as you can imagine. There's a lot of talk going on in here. And one of the things that came through was understanding how the false matrix has worked and how women have been made to be something that they're not, and how belief systems have come out of this. So let's just take a simple example, like, women aren't meant to be strong. We're not meant to be physically strong. So, what's the matrix done? It's very binary. It said, women are stronger in their lower bodies and men are stronger in the top. That's it. No, forget the spectrum in between. So if we were to train as women, we would train just our lower body and the men would train the upper body. I think we see examples of this, enough examples of this. How about if we trained our upper body, something crazy like doing just 25 push-ups 5 days a week or doing strength training? Do you think that narrative would change? But then there's the belief systems around women shouldn't be muscular. I've heard this from so many people, especially in the Bengali culture, like women shouldn't be muscular and it'll make them more like a man. I mean, you and I understand how silly this is, but this is just so prevalent in the consciousness, the thinking of certain cultures, especially mine, and especially in the English culture as well. It's still there. I mean, it is progressing and it's shifting quicker than, say, the Bengali culture in that sense. So for me, it's been very much, which was an interesting insight for me, because what came through very much was I've started strength training just to increase my strength and connect back into my body better. And what I found was the belief system that was going through my head was I can't lift weights as heavy as a man. It may seem silly and little. It was such an aha moment. And I thought, I should be focusing on, let's train myself, or let's see how much my body can lift. That should be my thinking. And it's just, I know it seems really, really silly, these little thoughts and stuff, but it's like these are the things that navigate our lives on a constant daily basis. These little systems, belief systems, programmings put in place just to keep us less and not fully us, because a system or society or the culture or the false matrix, call it whatever you want, has told us we are a certain way and we should be that. And it feels basic, but it feels fundamental. And these are things that we need to look at ourselves within. And that's where when those realizations start shifting, that's when we start shifting. So I've already mentioned, society, cultural systems, the false matrix has made us believe all this. And a lot of us think that, this narrative sits within the men and we get it from the men, But I know for a fact it sits within us, like the females, the women. And I know a lot of the women put other women down in this sense. And they, They reinforce these beliefs. So it's not men that are doing this to us, it's women. So my point is, there is something larger, there's a consciousness going on behind this that we are all feeding into and accepting these belief systems and allowing them to create our lives. So this false system, this consciousness that we feed into, shall we say, wants us, also creates a them and us situation. Like I mentioned before, it splits the polarities. So it's me against you, you against me, as opposed to all together. Let's see what we can create together. There is no and. So this is very much the false matrix. And I'm sharing a little example in how it plays into our daily lives. Just, our daily thinking without anyone else around and telling us anything. These are subconscious beliefs within us that the matrix has fed into us. And it's not in just men or women or other colors versus this color. It's in all of us. And this sits within us, in our energy body, in our field. And these are the things that should be first shifted to help us come out of them. I'm going to share another one that I have in the Bengali community, and it may not resonate in other communities, but it may. So I can only speak for my community in itself and I think South Asian diaspora. There is such a pressure put on us women to be great cooks. And I have a little 6-year-old, and he got asked by another Asian woman, who's the better cook, mum or dad? And I can't tell you how that makes me feel. It's so toxic. It makes me cringe. It makes me want to tell her to shut up, to be honest, because it's toxic. One, you're trying to create a divide between me and my husband in terms of who's better, him or me, and you're asking my child to make that decision. 2, my value is only measured on how well I cook. And I can tell you this now, I have nothing to talk to a lot of these women about, because that's what it's centered around, is cooking. And don't get me wrong, I love cooking. Cooking is what I do and I'm great at it. But that's not the point. The point is, it's not my everything, it's not my value. And I know enough of my cousins who are in the same boat. It's like a woman's worth is on how she cooks and how tasty her meals are. Forget anything else. Even though majority of us, especially the first and second generation diaspora in England, have got degrees and are doctors and engineers and have amazing careers, it comes down to food. And I can't tell you how belittling it is. And it's always, always reinforced by women. And the third thing is my value is dependent on my 6-year-old child's taste buds. So it's one of those things that constantly, get at me. And I see it and I stand in my power when it's said, my little child is a G because he, for some reason, gets something at some level and will say, both are brilliant. So I love that. But again, it's just all these little programmings, toxic behaviors we have in place that are there to keep us down, especially to keep us in our boxes of what value is. So just to iterate, I think the point is there are programs and beliefs in place to keep everybody in certain roles and value systems. And we really need to start breaking these down. And I know a lot of us already are, but it's almost like we have to look at the greater picture as well, because our personal lives are being ruled by what's happening on a bigger level. Coming back to the point of light and dark, I'd say a lot of us out there are probably being led by our darkness, our feminine, and we've been told otherwise. And it's been done for a specific reason. So the more we know ourselves, the more we get to know our inner truth of all that we are, we can then start releasing these false programmings put in place so we can become whole and truly start seeing ourselves for who we are instead of what the false matrix has told us who we are. This in itself will have a knock-on effect. Not are you going to be stepping more into who you are, by creating a stronger sense of who you are, you create stronger boundaries that will impact anything and everyone around you. And you will find that it's almost like things shift around you to fit around you, as opposed to you having to shift to fit around them. No, this is a journey. It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. It is a daily practice. But the more you step into who you are, the more you will not only step into that wholeness, but it's almost like being freed. You feel like you come out of a box and you see and feel and connect to everybody very differently. So basically, it will help you have better heart discernment. And what I mean by this is you will know as soon as somebody opens their mouth to say something, what comes out of that mouth is of truth or not. Even if that person believes what they're saying, you will instinctively know whether it is the truth in the matter of anything, or if it's just the false matrix talking through them. Some of us do not realize how programmed we are. And I think that's the lesson really, is coming out of that to see who we truly are without the matrix, without the false cultural beliefs and everything else in us, and coming out of that. It's almost like a cartoon character. We're not that, but coming into who we truly are. What it'll do is help you navigate your life better, because you will no longer be drawn into other people's bullshit. You won't go into their like, if you see it like a sphere, like you won't draw into their energies, into their power. You will maintain yours and stay in yours, and you'll stay strong in that. And you will be able to disconnect easier from that. And people will also not be able to siphon or drain your energies, because now you will become your own power source, and which is very, very different, because a lot of these false programmings, they actually drain you because you're fitting a narrative that's not yours, that's not what you came through in, and that that sits in your DNA. It sits in your field, in your energy of who you are. When you're trying to fit into a box or fit into other false programmings or programmings that are there, it's a drain in your field in so many different ways. It keeps you small and boxed up. So by releasing these, what you start doing is seeing everything and feeling everything better and really coming into yourself. As I was writing the script for this, what came through to me was to know yourself is to know God. And it's just amazing how the universe speaks to you and how these nuggets of truth in religion are still there. And I think this one was quoted by the Prophet Muhammad's son-in-law, Ali. So, according to Google. So that came through to me so clearly in that moment as I was writing this, is to know yourself is to know God. And now I understand what that means. We've stopped. We've been programmed. We've been brainwashed. We've been all these belief systems that's come through as soon as we were born has done everything to stop us to know who we truly are, that energy, that heart energy, that purpose we were, made from. Like, we are infinite love. We are from source, universe, God, call it what you want. But that is the energy, and it was almost, there was a purpose to it. There was a purpose to it, and that purpose is being suppressed or sabotaged by the false matrix. And it's using these systems of oppression, patriarchy, for, inverted matriarchy, white supremacy, racism, all of that is being used to keep us, in a sense, not to know who we truly are. Because if we do really know who we are and connect on a daily basis to that infinite love light within us, we start becoming the driver as opposed to the passenger. We are then shifting and changing and co-creating that life, or creating that life that we were meant to live. As you may have gathered, you can't just be light. Light does not exist without dark. And we can't know darkness if there is no light. Not to confuse this with white. The false matrix has taught us that light is white and white is right. I have to give credit to my husband for coming up with that. The system has taught us that the darkness is negative, and by the language it uses, i.e. being fairer is prettier, and dark is evil, dark is scary, dark is to be afraid. By calling negative magic black magic, we don't see the negative magic sitting in white spaces, i.e. the corporate world, or when people step into white privilege or are of white privilege. It took me ages to see this. I sensed it, I felt the uneasiness, but I couldn't see it in my mind's eye. It looks like white smoke, or you sense the other person, which feels righteous or better than, and it's also rife in religious spaces. It does make you feel good because that's how we've been programmed to believe it is. It's important to take note of the energies. Your body will be, your head will not, because it's been programmed a certain way. And there is a disconnect between our mental and emotional body that's been created by all the negative programmings. So by questioning why my body is feeling a certain way, it's led me to understand and sense the systems of oppression, especially white privilege and the energies of it. So I will talk about this more when we talk about the matrix. There's definitely an energy behind it, and it is negative. So when I say step into white privilege, there's aspects of me that has those privileges because I have tried to fit into a system for survival, and certain of those privileges work. Like, a level of entitlement. When you step into that energy, there's definitely an energy to it. But it is, although you may feel like it helps, it's also still feeding this negative system that we're in, and it's not being your true organic self. When you step into your true power, and not entitlement, it's completely different. When you step into your true power, which is powered from your heart, your belly, and your brain, those three, it's very, very different energy. And you feel you come from a place of heart discernment, and you're not right, you just are. And it's a very, very different feel to it. And in that way, nobody feels less than. Let's take COVID. It's been such a paradoxical time. There's been so many contradictions in this one massive event. And one of the things for sure is done. It's churned out all the lies hiding in the light or in the whiteness. And anything that's been non-serving in the darkness has also been brought up into the light to be seen. And for those of us who are ready, we started seeing it, and it is awakening a whole group of people now. And this is why I say it's so paradoxical. In one sense, there's people still asleep following this false system. And on the other hand, people have started questioning what's going on, what is being told to us on a global level. Not just our own governments, but on a global level, there is something going on. And what it's actually done is start awakening a huge bunch of people. And I think with events like these are very, very significant. And the Matrix tries to do something, but because of who we are and just our infinite love light, we will always, I feel, veer to the truth, because that is who we in essence are. We are of the light. And when I say light, I mean infinite love light, that love energy. And anything false or anything that's not of it, there's something in us that starts wakening up to tell us what we're being told is not the truth. What's happening isn't making sense. It's not aligning. So I think it's had the opposite effect. But my job here is to sort of make it clear to you how this system works, so you start seeing it in your everyday, like in everything. So then you become more aware of it and you start taking back your power. You start coming aligned to who you really are. And with that comes your flow, your own path in terms of how you walk it. So hopefully that has clarified to you what darkness is and why we've been trained to fear it. So in short, we are both light and dark. By accepting both, we step into who we are, and we're able to see the bullshit that can lie within those spaces, and that will help us have better heart discernment. And when we start seeing the lies, and they do exist everywhere, these lies are there to control us. So I want to clear up 2 misconceptions about darkness. The darkness isn't void space. If you sense that in you, stay out of it. Book in a session. It's also not the shadow side. That's the Matrix using language and distorting concepts of truth. There will be things hiding in the darkness, and it's not of you. Don't fear it. And if you feel fear, then it's an energy that shouldn't be there. Again, book in a session, get it cleared out. I tell you all this to help you come into your wholeness, and it's definitely not coming from a place of fear, it's coming from a place of awareness. So the more you are aware of what is there, the more you can walk your path. I know I haven't covered the masculine or feminine in men or any other identities. which I am more than happy to explore in conversation with other people, maybe in my next series. The masculine and feminine is definitely a spectrum, and it will differ within all of us. It is unique to us in what degree we hold light and darkness and what it means. And that's what creates the individual you. So no way is it something that is definitive. Let's be clear of that. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Let me know your thoughts, questions, or queries. This is probably one of my favorite things to discuss, the darkness. So on the next episode, I do go deeper into the false matrix, the matrix, how it operates, and what I like to call the systems of oppression. So thank you for listening. My infinite love light. Like I said, if you have questions or queries, or if you disagree with any of this, let me know in the comments below. I am more than up for a discussion. So again, my infinite love, and I shall see you next week. Thank you for listening.